In June 1528, the second wife of King Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn, was lying in her bed and was on death's door. In the years before, Anne had come to the English court, and she would at this point not be married to the king. However, the chase had begun years before for Henry VIII, as he was already married, and he had become obsessed with Anne. The king wanted to sleep with Anne, and he would later have to make her his wife and queen for this to happen. But Anne's illness was down to what was known as the sweat. This disease isn't completely clear with its exact medical definition, but many have said it was a hantavirus. It affected millions around the world, but it would, in around 1551, somewhat disappear. But when it came to England, it killed thousands. It would strike mostly anyone, but in particular, it also hit the wealthy, who were believed to have been at better odds to survive deadly illnesses than the poor. It was said that they which had this sweat sore with peril of death were either men of wealth, ease, or welfare, or of the poor sort, such as were idle persons, good ale drinkers, and tavern haunters. But when the symptoms of the sweat came, they were brutal. Someone would experience a short bout of aches and chills, and then a raging fever, which caused a huge amount of sweat. And then when the fever broke, the patient would be shattered and very tired. This was dangerous in itself, as many people died in their sleep. But within 24 hours, up to 50% of those who became infected would die. A Tudor doctor at the time, John Caius, wrote a book on the sweating sickness, and he said that to avoid it, someone should avoid from heavy drinking and eat plain foods. He wrote, "But we are now a days so unwisely fine, and womanly delicate, that we may in no wise touch a fish. The old manly hardness, stout courage, and painfulness of England is utterly driven away, in the stead whereof men nowadays receive womanliness, and become nice, not able to withstand a blast of wind, or resist a poor fish, and children be so brought up, that if they be not all day by the fire with a toast and butter, and in their furs, they be straight sick." He would later become a royal doctor to Henry VIII's children, Edward VI, Mary I, and Elizabeth I. He also gave advice as to how to deal with the disease and how to keep clean. He believed that good smells shielded people from disease, and that bathing in warm water opened the pores of the skin and made someone more likely to get ill. He wrote, "And for so much as cleanliness it is a great help to health, mine advice is that all your clothes be sweet-smelling and clean, and that you wash your hands and face, not in warm water, but with rose water and vinegar cold, or else with the fair water and vinegar, wherein the pills, seeds, or bark, skins of oranges and pomegranates are sodden, or the pills of pomacy trees and sorrel is boiled. For so you shall close the pores against the air, that it readily enter not, and cold and temper those parts so washed, according to the right intent, in curing this disease." He also said that if someone caught the sweat, then they should not be left around on their own for 24 hours, and they should be sent to bed wearing their clothes and covered over. Caius also insisted that someone should take herbal medications, and that when they begin to sweat they should drink nothing for 5 hours, and that they should not be allowed to disrobe or get out of bed. He would state, "Therefore, accordingly, if rub you must, give to the sick into their beds a new and somewhat hard kerchief, well warmed but not hot, and bid them rub all their bodies over therewith under their clothes, neither too much, neither too little, nor too hard or too soft, but meaningly between, taking you heed which be about them, that by stirring their arms they raise not the clothes to let in the air." But there were others who were trying to deal with the sweat, as Meg Roper, the daughter of Sir Thomas More, came down with the disease, and her father tried an unusual treatment to cure her, which saved her life. It was said that, at some point during this outbreak, Margaret Roper, the daughter of Sir Thomas More, was infected with the sweating sickness. The story of her recovery is particularly interesting. especially to those trying to determine the agents responsible for the disease. As was typically the case with the sweating sickness, Margaret became very ill quickly. Thomas More summoned several physicians, all of whom were certain she would die from the disease. Devastated, More retired to his private chapel to pray. Whilst begging God to save his daughter, he suddenly thought that a clyster or enema might cure his daughter. He suggested this idea to the physicians, and an enema was administered shortly thereafter. To the surprise of her doctors, Margaret's health improved and she survived the illness. Sufferers were often given ale to drink but no food, and at the end of the 24 hours it was said they would be out of danger, but they were not allowed to sleep as they would not wake up. Rose water and other scents were used to keep someone awake and to rouse them from sleepiness. However, in June of 1528, one of Anne Boleyn's ladies would fall ill with the sweat. To combat the spread of this, the king, Henry VIII, who was, as mentioned, trying to sleep with Anne, would send Anne home to Hever to recover, and he kept himself well away from his would-be second wife. He would pray for Anne, and he sent her a letter, as he felt slightly guilty that he had abandoned her and moved him and his wife and child miles away for fear of getting sick. Henry wrote that, "The uneasiness my doubts about your health gave me disturbed and frightened me extremely, and I should not have had any quiet without hearing a certain account. But now, since you have yet felt nothing, I hope it is with you as with us. For when we were here at Waltham, 2 ushers, 2 valets de chambre, and your brother, Master Treasurer, fell ill, and are now quite well, and since we are returned to your house at Hudson, we have been perfectly well. God be praised, and have not, at present, one sick person in the family, and I think, if you would retire from the Surrey side, as we did, you would escape all danger. There is another thing that may comfort you, which is that, in truth, in the distemper few or no women have been taken ill, and beside, no person of our court and few elsewhere have died of it. For which reasons I beg you, my entirely beloved, not to frighten yourself, nor be too uneasy at our absence. For wherever I am yours, and yet we must sometimes submit to our misfortunes, for whoever will struggle against fate is generally but so much the farther from gaining his end. Wherefore comfort yourself and take courage, and make this misfortune as easy to you as you can, and I hope shortly to make you sing for joy of your recall. No more at present for lack of time, but that I wish you in my arms, that I might a little dispel your unreasonable thoughts, written by the hand of him who is, and always will be yours." In this letter, he was trying to comfort Anne and add an explanation as to his actions. He tried to tell her that if she got ill, then she would recover, but what is captivating in this letter is Henry's language, and how he offers himself to Anne, saying, "I am yours," even though he was married to Catherine of Aragon at the time. He must have also been worried about Anne, but the king then received information days later that Anne was in fact ill, and Henry wrote another letter to her, and he sent his best doctor, William Butts, to tend to Anne. He wrote, "There came to me in the night the most afflicting news possible. I have to grieve for 3 causes. First, to hear of my mistress's sickness, whose health I desire as my own, and would willingly bear the half of yours to cure you. Secondly, because I fear to suffer yet longer than absence, which has already given me so much pain. God deliver me from such an importunate rebel. Thirdly, because the physician I trust most is at present absent when he could do me the greatest pleasure. However, in his absence, I send you the second, praying God he may soon make you well, and I shall love him the better. Beseech you to be governed by his advice, and then I hope to see you soon again." But this was a deadly illness that hit the Boleyn family. Mary Boleyn's husband, Anne's brother-in-law, William Carey, was stricken with the disease, as was Thomas Boleyn, her father. William Carey would die on the same day that Anne Boleyn fell ill, and Anne was tossing and turning in her sickbed. But she would manage to survive. But it did take her a long time to get over this bout of illness. She would not make a return to the king's court until the autumn, and whilst they were apart, Henry VIII would send many love letters to Anne, and he longed to be back with her. She came back to London along with her mother in the September of 1528 and lived at Durham House, but what would come in the next few years for Anne would be marriage to the king. This was everything she wanted, but history could have been very different if she had died from the deadly disease of the sweat. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.